morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar.
And I'm Hem Kaursara. And on the show today, the FBI has released the video that was taken by the suspect in the New Year's Day attack, which he recorded with Meta glasses during previous visits to the French Quarter neighborhood in New Orleans. The FBI is now looking into the suspect's visits to Egypt and Canada. We will get you more details on the findings and much more on this on the show today.
Also on the show, Russia said that Ukraine has launched a counterattack in the western border region of Kursk, where Kiev's forces began a shock ground offensive last August. The assault comes at a critical juncture in the nearly 3-year conflict, with both sides seeking to strengthen their negotiating hand ahead of President-elect Donald Trump taking office. Of course, we'll bring you all the details on that story on the show today, but first the headlines.
Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan says it will now target military-linked businesses and enterprises, gives stores 2-month ultimatum to dispose of army products, asks people to dump shares in army businesses.
Russia claims Ukraine launched a counterattack in the Kursk region, where Kiev's forces began a shock ground offensive last August, adds that its forces have inflicted significant damage on the Ukrainian army.
Venezuela's opposition calls for mass protests on the 9th of January, day before President Nicolas Maduro begins his third term following a widely disputed re-election.
Elon Musk calls for Nigel Farage to be replaced as leader of Reform UK Party just weeks after reports that the multi-billionaire was in talks to donate to the party.
India Out movement. It was headed by our former President Yamin.
Maldives' former President Abdullah Yamin invites WION for an in-person interview. This after Foreign Minister Abdullah Khalil tells WION that Yamin led the India Out campaign.
Temperature continues to dip in Delhi as cold wave grips the national capital and other parts of northern India. Now, top story on World DNA, the man responsible for the truck attack in New Orleans is said to have built 2 bombs with a very rare explosive compound.
Senior law enforcement officials said the compound has never before been used in a US or Europe terror attack. Investigators are now exploring how Shamsuddin Jabbar learned how to produce these explosives, whether he was taught by an individual or an organization.
Now, the bombs were found in coolers on a Bourbon Street, the same place where Jabbar killed 14 people and injured 35 others by ramming up a pickup truck into a crowd. Jabbar was killed in a shootout with police on the day of the attack. The FBI said that if New Orleans police had not responded as quickly as they did, Jabbar could have detonated the bombs. On social media, he had declared his allegiance to the Islamic State group.
FBI continues its probe into the attack. Investigators say Jabbar had earlier visited the city on apparent reconnaissance missions.
Now, once recording the location using camera-equipped glasses, they said he had also traveled to Egypt and Canada in the 2 years prior, adding that they are trying to determine if he was radicalized during one of these visits. Now, Russia and Ukraine have entered a new phase of escalation in the new year.
Ukraine has launched a counter-offensive in the Kursk region, warning that Russia is getting what it deserves. Moscow, on the other hand, has vowed a strong response to Kyiv and its Western allies amid the use of ATACMS missiles. Our next report tells you how Ukraine's move has infuriated Moscow.
Ukraine's attack on Belgorod with US-made ATACMS missile is triggering a deadly threat from Moscow. Russia has warned that it will hit Ukrainian capital Kyiv with hypersonic missiles. The US Lockheed Martin-made ATACMS, each costing $1.5 million, are fired from M142 High Mobility Artillery Rocket System, or HIMARS. Ukraine had used the 300-kilometer range missiles earlier on Russian-occupied territories, but now by using them on Russian soil, it has significantly escalated the conflict. Outgoing U.S. President Joe Biden allowed Ukraine to use the missiles last November after Russia began deploying North Korean troops in the war. Just days after Biden's approval, Russia responded by firing the Oreshnik missile in Ukraine's Dnipro region. Alongside firing the ATACMS, Ukraine also unleashed attacks on Leningrad and the Kursk region, claiming it caused significant Russian losses.
The commander-in-chief also reported on the situation in the Kursk region. The Russian army lost up to a battalion of North Korean infantry soldiers and Russian paratroopers. This is significant. I want to commend the professional and effective actions of our soldiers in the Special Operation Forces and the 18th Separate Air Assault Brigade.
Russia has retaliated, firing over 80 drones, including Iranian Shahids, at Ukraine. Kyiv says it intercepted 34 drones in the attack that caused damage in Chernihiv and Sumy regions. Entering the third anniversary of the war, Russia is claiming significant gains in the east. It has taken control of Nadia village in the Luhansk region while putting Ukrainian troops under pressure in Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region. On the back foot, Ukrainian army's hopes are now resting on the U.S.
I think that Trump's common sense won't leave him and the support will continue. We understand that Russian terrorist organization, this mammoth, has no right to exist in the shape it is now.
But the incoming Trump administration has left Ukraine with a lot of concerns. A swift end to the hostilities, it fears, could potentially come only with Russia being given its territories. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now, the latest Israeli strikes in Gaza have killed 12 people, including 5 in the Nusrat refugee camp,
as well as 4 in the southern city of Khan Yunis and 3 in Burej refugee camp in central Gaza. This is as per Gaza's health ministry, and they say that at least 88 people had been killed in the past 24 hours. The Israeli military in a statement said that it targeted a Hamas command center in Khan Yunis and an Islamic Jihad militant in the Deir al-Balah as flares and explosions were seen from southern Israel.
The Palestinian health officials say that Israel's bombardments and ground assault of Gaza has killed more than 45,600 Palestinians, while women and children accounted for more than half the fatalities. However, the officials did not distinguish civilians and combatants in their tally.
Meanwhile, a new report has surfaced stating that at least 60 of the Hamas militants who were arrested during the IDF raids on Kamal Adwan Hospital were brought to Israeli hospitals for treatment last week. The report further said that the arrested militants were brought to various Israeli medical centers due to the lack of field hospital, although the report did not mention specifically whether the terrorists were still undergoing treatment at Israeli hospitals or have been transferred elsewhere.
On the other hand, attempts are being made to negotiate a potential prisoner exchange deal. Now, a senior Hamas official requesting anonymity has put forth a new proposal saying that the group was ready to release 34 Israeli hostages in the first phase of the deal from a list presented by Israel.
The official added that the 34 hostages to be included in the initial swap include all the women, children, elderly people, and sick captives still held in Gaza, saying that Hamas required more time to determine whether they were alive. Contrary to this, Israel has denied the report that Hamas approved a list of 34 hostages. The office of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Hamas was yet to provide a list of hostages to be released under a deal.
According to Channel 12, Hamas submitted a hostage list without indicating who was alive and who was not. As per the IDF, a total of 34 hostages have died out of 251 hostages seized during the 7th of October 2023 attack that triggered this war, while 96 reportedly still remain in Gaza.
Now, China's sweeping purge of top defense leadership has resulted in 14 military lawmakers being sacked in less than 2 years.
Now, the latest to join the list are Generals Yu Haitao and Li Pengsheng. Now, the dismissals are widely believed to be linked to President Xi Jinping's strict anti-corruption drive that has been underway for over a decade. During Xi's first term, the top brass caught in the anti-corruption drive included 2 former vice chairmen of the Central Military Commission. Officials targeted in recent purges were holding key military roles.
Admiral Miao Hua is another senior military official caught in a graft probe. A CMC member and director of its political work department, Miao was placed under investigation in November.
9 PLA officials, including senior members of the PLA Rocket Force, were dismissed from the top legislature in 2023. Last year, 5 were dismissed.
The former Defense Minister Li Shangfu was one of the generals removed from the current National People's Congress. Li was sacked as Defense Minister in October 2023 after just 7 months on the job. And in June, Beijing announced that both Li and his predecessor, Wei Fenghe, were being investigated for corruption. They have also been removed by the ruling Communist Party.
Several military officials have also been removed from the national political advisory roles for corruption in the past year. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called strengthening the military a key focus for him. Now, South Korea's high-stakes confrontation over the execution of the arrest warrant for President has taken an interesting turn.
The chief of security for South Korean prison, Yoon Suk-yeol, has suggested that his constitutional duties prevent him from cooperating with the efforts to arrest the impeached leader.
Now, the official pointed out that although impeached, Yoon still remains the president, which is why him and his staff are duty-bound to protect him and prevent his arrest. This comes even as the arrest warrant for Yoon on grounds of insurrection is set to expire.
대통령 경호처는 무작정 수사기관의 법 집행을 방해하고자 하는 뜻이 아닙니다. 지금 윤석열 대통령은 비록 탄핵소추안이 국회에서 가결된 상태이지만 주권자인 국민의 손으로 뽑은 현직 대통령이 분명하고 법이 정한 대로 그에 상응한 경호를 받고 있습니다.
The security chief's comments come after a Seoul court rejected a complaint from Yoon's lawyers that the arrest warrant is illegal and invalid. Amid the deepening crisis, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Seoul for talks with senior officials. Now, on Sunday, thousands braved heavy snow to stage opposing rallies in Seoul for and against arresting the impeached president. Multiple groups are holding demonstrations near his official residence, some urging his immediate arrest, while others are protesting against it.
한마디 합니다. 공수처한테서 화났어요. 공수처 한번 해보세요. 그래서 무고한 시민, 우리 민주노총 조합을 함께 나가지 않으면 같이 못 나간다고 사실은 경찰까지 봤는데 이것들 계속 배치 중이라네. 나중에 알고 봤더니 거기 안에 있는 딱 한마디 합니다.
사실 윤석열 대통령에 대한 그런 깊은 마음은 성가할 때는 없었는데 이번에 집권을 하고 대통령이 집권을 하고 정책을 행할 때마다 그리고 외교 성과 우리나라는 분단 국가이기 때문에 국가 안보에 대한 철저한 반공 사상을 가지고 있어서 우리 국민들이 완전히 대통령을 지지하게 됐습니다.
Tensions boiled over in Seoul when protesters broke through police barricades to occupy a road in Seoul leading to Yoon's presidential residence. A group of protesters pushed past a wall of police and metal barricades, with the entire anti-Yoon rally eventually moving over into all lanes of the road, forcing police to close off traffic access.
눈이 와도 대통령은 전 안에 있고 저는 이 근처에 살고 있고 그리고 날씨가 춥다고 해도 저는 계속 이곳에서 살아야 되잖아요. 그러면은 다 같이 모여 있는 곳이 덜 춥죠. 사람들이 이렇게 있는데. 그래서 계속 나을 것 같아요. 앞으로도 대통령이 탄핵될 때까지도 나을 거고.
Protests have been reported in other parts of the country as well. Despite chilly weather, a large crowd of locals gathered in the streets of Daegu, a metropolitan city in the country's southeast. They shouted slogans and called on the Constitutional Court to pass the impeachment case for Yoon.
Yoon became the first incumbent South Korean president to face arrest for his botched attempt to declare martial law on December 3rd last year. This triggered political chaos in Asia's fourth largest economy and a key U.S. ally. The conservative president has been impeached by parliament and suspended from official duties till the Constitutional Court decides whether or not to reinstate him. Right, moving on, online casino gambling is surging at an alarming rate in Japan, with cases skyrocketing since 2020.
Consultation requests to a gambling addiction support group in Tokyo have also gone up 11-fold in 5 years. Social isolation after the COVID-19 pandemic and easy access to 24/7 online casinos via smartphones are being mentioned as the key drivers.
In 2024, 91 cases of family members addicted to gambling at an online casinos were reported, compared to just 8 cases in 2019. Nearly 30% families affected by the gambling addiction also reported criminal activity, including embezzlement and theft, or relatives turning to illegal jobs known as yamibaito to fund their habit.
In one instance, a gambling addict extorted his mother, who was in her 60s, who lost $67,000. He eventually took a yamibaito job and was arrested for robbery. Authorities and experts say tougher crackdowns are needed against the illegal online casinos and related payment services to check the damage caused to community health. Now, Venezuela's opposition has called for mass protests on the 9th of January.
Now, this comes a day before President Nicolas Maduro begins his third term. And this comes after a widely disputed re-election of President Maduro in July 28th presidential polls.
Now, in a post on social media site X, opposition leader Maria Corina Machado has asked the people of the country to come out and protest against the poll results and President Maduro.
Machado has claimed that Maduro was defeated in July 28th election by her party's candidate Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, who has been since then recognized as a president-elect by the United States, Italy, and several Latin American countries.
Venezuelan electoral authorities declared Maduro the winner of the election shortly after the voting, but did not release the detailed results. The opposition, meanwhile, has released a large set of polling site results showing Gonzalez Urrutia winning by a huge margin.
The demonstration broke out in the country soon after Nicolas Maduro was declared winner in the election. At least 28 people were dead and over 2,000 were arrested in the protests. Machado, who had been in hiding since the election, appeared intermittently at protests in the capital, Caracas.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez has met Uruguay's president in capital following his meeting with Argentina's president. Urrutia has been on a regional tour to gather support ahead of President Nicolas Maduro swearing in for a third term.
In the meantime, President Maduro's close ally, Jorge Rodriguez, has been ratified as the head of the Venezuelan parliament.
Dirigida por el sargento Darwin Berroterán.
Now, airports in the UK reopened after flight suspensions amid heavy snowfall.
But strict weather warnings continue across the country amid the ongoing icy spell. Airports have reopened in northwestern Manchester and Liverpool, central Birmingham and western Bristol.
While the northern Leeds Bradford Airport said its runway will remain closed till further notice, Britain's weather agency has sounded severe amber weather warnings for snow and ice in parts of England and Wales. Heavy snow has led to the shutting down of key roads in northern England. The rail line between northern Leeds and Halifax is also closed. The National Grid said it is working to restore power after outages in central and southwest England and South Wales.
More than 12,000 homes across the north of England are without power amid freezing temperatures. UK's National Met Service has reported that sleet, heavy snow and thawing could lead to flooding in places. Meanwhile, in the United States, the National Weather Service has issued winter storm warnings from Kansas and Missouri, where blizzard conditions are expected. American Airlines issued a travel advisory covering 46 airports from Kansas to New Jersey, as the storm is forecast to move from the middle of the United States to the East Coast. In Nebraska, the National Weather Service sent out an advisory warning that travel conditions will deteriorate due to ice and snow-covered roads.
And well, World DNA will continue on the other side after a short break.
And here's a look at all the climate stories that are making headlines across the globe. Stay tuned. dive into your daily dose of news.
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show. Let's get started with the headlines first.
Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan says it will now target military-linked businesses and enterprises, warns of attacks against leadership of ruling Pakistan Muslim League.
South Korean investigator to seek an extension to arrest warrant for suspended President Yoon Suk Yeol. The warrant expires at the end of today.
Venezuela's opposition calls for a mass protest on January 9th, the day before President Nicolas Maduro begins his third term following a widely disputed re-election.
Elon Musk calls for Nigel Farage to be replaced as leader of Reform UK party. Just weeks after reports, the multi-billionaire was in talks to donate to the party.
India Out movement. It was headed by our former President Yamin.
Maldives' former President Abdullah Yamin invites WION for an in-person interview. This comes after Foreign Minister Abdullah Khalil tells WION that Yamin led the India Out campaign.
Temperatures continue to dip in Delhi as cold wave grips the national capital and other parts of northern India.
PSG are the French Super Cup champions for the third straight year. Ousmane Dembele scores a stoppage time winner to edge AS Monaco in Doha.
The Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan has warned the country's political parties, specifically the leadership of the Pakistan Muslim League, to not become a part of its war against the security force.
Now, the TTP has also issued an ultimatum to public to end links to military businesses within 3 months, adding that it will now target any army-owned enterprises in Pakistan.
Now, these statements were released by Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan spokesperson Mohammad Khorasani in a message to Pakistan's ruling parties. The banned terrorist group said it was only fighting against and targeting security forces.
However, it went on to allege that current ruling alliance, especially the leadership of the Pakistan Muslim League, had repeatedly used the same language and tone and that the Pakistan Army uses against the TTP. It warned these parties not to become a part of its ongoing war against the army, adding that it will not hesitate to target the leadership of the Muslim League.
In another statement, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan said that its leadership has decided to target military businesses and enterprises. The TTP gave the Pakistani public 3 months' time to withdraw their shares from these enterprises. It also warned people working in these institutions to find alternative sources of income within 3 months.
It also gave 2-month ultimatum to shops to dispose of army products. The statement said that if military products are found in their stores after the deadline, orders will be issued to the Mujahideen to burn these products. It also said that any vehicle delivering these products after the deadline will also be burnt.
For more on this, our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik has sent us this report from Islamabad. Listen to this.
Well, the statement that has recently been issued by the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the terror group, the banned terror group rather, it comes in the backdrop of it being renamed in Pakistan and being called as Fitnatul Kharij, which literally translates into apostate nuisance. And that is something by virtue of religious values, apostates are liable to be killed as per Islam. That is one of the reasons that this sort of statement has been, this renaming of the TTP in the Pakistani media, and that acronym being used and repeated by the political party, especially the one in power, that has been an Achilles heel the reason this threat has come in from the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the banned terror group, warning the government-led Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz particularly that if they don't deter from this narrative, then they will have to face consequences.
Yohannes also tells about how the Pakistan Army are reacting to these threats issued by the TTP.
There hasn't been any immediate reaction coming in from the government, but having said that, the threat to military installations or military run businesses is very specific. Therefore, it would not be a surprise that once Pakistan opens in the morning and later in the morning rather, we would be seeing some heightened measures of security in and around these public installations. For instance, banks, the shops that have been asked to remove military-owned products or military-backed products, and so on and so forth. It is also pertinent to mention that there is a concentrated, unified voice within the Pakistani political circle denouncing the threat by the by the TTP, the terror group, against the PMLN, asking people to unite against the menace of terrorism and rising terrorism, the fact that it has to be eradicated. Yes.
Abdullah Yameen, the former president of Maldives, has invited WION to visit the country and do an in-person interview with him.
Now, this invitation was extended after WION's recent interview with the Maldives Foreign Minister Abdullah Khalil.
During the interview, the Maldivian foreign minister had asserted that the India Out campaign in Maldives was led by Yameen and that the current government led by President Mohamed Muizzu had nothing to do with it.
The former president and his supporters were seen watching the interview at their front office in Malé.
After this, Yameen's aide and former minister Mohammad Mali Jamal tweeted an invitation to WION for an in-person interview with the former president. WION has reached out for an immediate online interview for now at his convenience.
In an exclusive conversation with WION's assistant editor for foreign affairs, Siddhant Sibal, Maldives Foreign Minister Abdullah Khalil had said that the India Out movement was primarily led by Yameen and that he has no connection whatsoever with the current government. Khalil had added that Yameen is now working with the opposition against the government.
India Out movement, it was headed by our former President Yameen. He is totally segregated from us. He is having his own party and he is still in that one. We have moved away. Categorically, our president has mentioned several times that he is building, he is moving forward with a stronger relationship with India and Indian people. So that is our stand. So our relationship with the former president, it is totally different. He is totally out of and he is working against us at the moment.
Yameen's term as president from November 2013 to 2018 was known for an obvious China tilt. While in opposition, Yameen positioned himself as the chief anti-India voice. In March 2022, he was seen wearing a T-shirt with the words "India Out," a slogan Yameen had introduced into Maldives' political lexicon. Now, ahead of the 2023 presidential election, Yameen and his opposition coalition had rallied under this slogan. However, in 2022, Yameen was convicted in a money laundering charge derailing his presidential candidature.
In his absence, Mohammad Muizzu went on to become the president with Yameen's support. But the relation seems to have soured. In November 2024, Yameen expressed regret over his decision to support Muizzu in the presidential election. And all 3 crew members of an Indian Coast Guard helicopter were killed when it crashed at Porbandar Airport in Gujarat on Sunday afternoon.
Now, Porbandar Superintendent of Police Bhagirath Singh said that the incident took place just after noon when the advanced light helicopter was trying to land at the Porbandar Airport. The 3 crew members were rushed to a hospital in Porbandar where they were declared dead.
इंडियन कोस्ट गार्ड का एक एडवांस लाइट हेलीकॉप्टर जो लैंडिंग कर रहा
An advanced light helicopter of the Indian Coast Guard crashed while it was landing at Porbandar Airport. There were 3 crew members on board the helicopter who were rescued and rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, 3 crew members lost their lives in the accident. Police and Coast Guard are investigating the incident.
कोस्ट गार्ड इसकी संयुक्त जांच कर रही है.
In an official statement, the Indian Coast Guard said the helicopter with 2 pilots and an air crew driver was on routine training sortie at the time of the incident. The statement added that a board of inquiry will be investigating the reasons for the crash and the victims will be cremated as per service traditions and honour.
Now, China's gold demand surged dramatically in November 2024, with imports through Hong Kong more than doubling from the previous month.
This surge in imports represents the highest level China has seen since April 2024. The total gold imports via Hong Kong also rose sharply by 60%, the highest level in 8 months.
Now, this sharp increase in gold imports comes as China's central bank resumed buying gold for its reserves after a 6-month pause. Now, analysts suggest that the rise in imports could be driven not only by official sector purchases but also by growing consumer demand, particularly in bars, coins and jewelry. Dealers in China have started charging premiums for gold, a signal of stronger demand as consumers prepare for the Lunar New Year celebrations. This seasonal boost in demand is compounded by broader economic concerns, including a potential weakening of its currency.
Gold's role as a hedge against economic uncertainty is evident as global central banks continue their buying spree. Since 2022, central banks have been purchasing gold at an unprecedented pace, and China's demand appears to align with this trend. Despite the strong US dollar, gold has seen significant gains, up nearly 27% as geopolitical tensions and financial uncertainties persist. China's robust gold imports suggest that demand will likely remain strong in 2025, further supporting global gold prices. The first US jobs report is due on Friday. In the week ahead, that will be the most crucial macroeconomic data.
Now, this next report is going to be giving you all the details, and to understand why investors will focus on this key report for clues to Federal Reserve's policy.
The U.S. jobs report on Friday will be key for investors looking for clues to the Fed's policy path this year. The early consensus is for December U.S. non-farm payrolls to have risen 153,000 with a range of 125,000 to 200,000. However, expectations will firm up through the week with the release of job openings numbers and ADP private payrolls data. The unemployment rate is expected to hold at 4.2%, while the wage growth is projected to remain at 4% year on year. This would be consistent with the general cooling of the jobs market. The widely held view is that the Fed's rate cuts will be much slower and less aggressive this year. The central bank itself projects fewer cuts this year, and that is just 2. The probability of Fed easing in January is quite low. Best for March also show a very small chance. Inflation needs to fall sharply for the Fed to cut rates this month, and economic data should show recessionary trends. However, the latest U.S. manufacturing data shows encouraging signs of life. After languishing for much of the past 2 years, both the production and new orders components of the ISM manufacturing report have moved into growth territory. Now still, caution remains with the employment component, suggesting jobs continue to be shed. Tariff uncertainty remains a concern. While the Fed has been cutting rates, longer-dated borrowing costs have surged higher. This is driven by the combination of government debt sustainability concerns and potentially sticky inflation. The dramatic steepening of the yield curve is pushing mortgage rates and corporate borrowing costs sharply higher. The dollar has also risen to its strongest level in more than 2 years against key trading partners. These factors will act as a brake on economic activity that the Fed may feel it needs to offset. So, unless a clear picture emerges, it is unlikely that the Fed will move away from its hawkish stance. Business Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And Manchester United show they still have fight left in them in the English Premier League.
The Red Devils defied their recent form to hold leaders Liverpool 2-2 at Anfield, and it was once again Amad Diallo who came to hunt the Reds with a late equalizer.
United traveled to Merseyside amid adverse weather conditions and snowfall that threatened to cancel the match. The Red Devils were